I used to believe that all my stuffed animals came to life when I wasn't looking. I used to believe that if I swallowed a watermelon seed, a watermelon would grow in my stomach. I used to believe that chocolate milk came from brown cows, that elemental P was one word, and that all cats were female and all dogs were male. I used to believe that there were monsters under my bed and that all I needed for protection was to pull the covers over my head. I used to believe that my greatest challenge was coloring within the lines. In staying within the sheltered premiere of private school, my teachers and parents have fun. I used to believe in believing, because as we go from 6 to 16 for worse or for better, we learn that hiding under the covers and coloring within the lines doesn't last forever. Where is there to hide after a suicide? In recent news, 5 teenage suicides have occurred in the span of 9 months, pushing the community into panic and grief. But the underlying question, why? Since 2009, 10 Palo Alto teenagers have taken their lives, 4 to 5 times greater than the national average. But the underlying question, why? In 1 year alone, 42 students from one of the high schools have been hospitalized for having suicidal thoughts, 2 to 3 times greater than the national average. But the underlying question, why? There are about 5 youth suicide clusters around the United States annually, and Palo Alto has experienced its second. It seems that believing in optimism isn't possible anymore. But in times of tragedy, our community unites. We come together, and the little spark of hope reminds us to keep believing. We continue to believe as long as several changes and new limitations continue to be in effect. As long as countless articles by parents, teens, and teachers continue to be published. As long as numerous investigations continue to be carried out by mental health officials. But the underlying question, why? Why are Palo Alto teenagers killing themselves? Psychological vulnerability, insufficient sleep, parental pressure, mental disorders, education, ambition, Stanford, wealth, stress, race. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median income in Palo Alto is over $120,000, more than twice California's median. Last year, News and World Report ranked Gunn High School as one of the top 5 STEM schools in the nation. On the other side of town, Palo Alto High School has SAT scores 200 points above the state average. In the heart of Silicon Valley, home to many of the world's largest technology companies, Palo Alto is considered elite. The top 1%, if you will, and not just on the high school level. Stanford University is directly across the street, no more than 14 steps from Palo Alto High School. Their acceptance rate, 4.7%. About 35 students from the Palo Alto School District are admitted each year, and at least a quarter are offered admission at a UC. With greater opportunities, however, comes greater competition and greater expectations. These kids face pressure so intense that every day is a mechanical routine, like robots programmed to execute nothing short of a genius. In kindergarten, we sat in a circle all together learning the colors of a rainbow. By elementary school, we've been divided into early and late readers. By the 7th grade, we've been divided into pre-algebra and pre-algebra advanced. But to us, it was the dumb lane and the normal lane. Advanced or honors isn't the challenge, it's an expectation. By high school, we become accustomed to juggling the stress of living, and not just the educational stress we think of stemming from our teachers, but also the pressure put on us by our parents, friends, and possibly most of all, ourselves. Instead of learning subject matter, we've learned to balance our 3 S's: school, social life, and sleep. But can we really say it's a balance? Nearly every high schooler can tell you that one of these S's is constantly taking a hit. Failing a test, cutting out our friends, forcing our eyes to stay open until the early AMs. It would be no surprise to hear that 12% of Palo Alto High School students have contemplated suicide in the past 12 months. In a city where living feels like a heavy burden, depression floats around as freely as the common cold. On the scale that is our life, we are one life breeze from tipping over, a breeze equivalent to that of a train passing by. I used to believe it was school pressure that drove my friends insane. I used to think it was mental disorders that were bringing my friends so much pain. I used to believe it was stress that was killing my classmates. The day after the first suicide in 2009, Our teachers passed out the suicide hotlines. You heard cries of sympathy, sorrow, and unwielding compliance, and the rumors of why stop standing against stress in defiance. I heard he got a D+ on his last calculus test. I heard he didn't get into Harvard, which no one would guess. By the time 2015 rolled around, the slope of student suicides didn't seem to be going down. It became obvious that greater school rejections wasn't why kids were standing on the tracks in our town. Yet we desperately continued to search for an answer. Blame for the suicides was still spreading like growing cancer. I used to believe that there was a reason out there waiting to be grasped, some scientific concept about to be wrapped, because by the time that we graduate, we'll have been taught that for every product there's a reactant, for every input X, there's an output Y, that for every cause there must be an effect, that for every action there must be a reaction. We have our action, we have our 10 actions, and our first reaction is to look for that key cause, because like programs, we're designed to detect flaws. As a society, we are so eager for an explanation, so anxious for a cause, so willing to discard blame without taking a pause. We forget that we used to believe that there were monsters under our bed, and that all we needed for protection was to pull the covers over our head. Because like the monsters from nightmares we've already dismissed, some things just don't exist. So step outside the perimeter you're hiding behind, and broaden the horizon of answers you're trying to find.
Just a touch of your love is enough to knock me off of my feet, oh, just a touch of your love, just